Their Eyes Were Watching God by Zora Neale Hurston, Chapter 17. So, at the beginning of this chapter, consider how does Teacake deal with his jealousy? Consider that as we read. A great deal of the old crowd were back, but there were lots of new ones too. Some of these men made passes at Janie, and women who didn't know took out after Teacake. It didn't take them long to be put right, however. Still in all, jealousies arose now and then on both sides. When Mrs. Turner's brother came and she brought him over to be introduced, Teacake had a brainstorm. Before the week was over, he had whipped Janie, not because her behavior justified his jealousy, but it relieved that awful fear inside of him. Being able to whip her reassured him in possession. No brutal beating at all. He just slapped her around a bit to show he was boss. Everybody talked about it next day in the fields. It aroused a sort of envy in both men and women. The way he petted and pampered her as if those 2 or 3 face slaps had nearly killed her, made the women see visions, and the helpless way she hung on him made men dream dreams. So how does Teacake deal with his jealousy? So Teacake becomes jealous when Miss Turner brings her brother by to see Janie. And so Teacake whips Janie, and a quote from what I just read describes it as, not because her behavior justified his jealousy, but it relieved him of that awful fear inside, him. And so this might remind you of with Jody. When Jody saw another man touching Janie's hair, he also felt jealousy and therefore tried to establish his power and possession over Janie by making her tie up her hair. So remember, Jody also punished Janie to deal with his own jealousies. And both Teacake and Jody are kind of doing this to establish that they possess Janie. And Jody did this to establish that he was the boss of Janie. And so the interesting thing is that when Teacake does this, it's described as this causes both men and women to feel jealous. It describes the slapping her 2 or 3 times and then kind of like fawning over her and taking care of her. And so this is an interesting part of the book, and I'm curious, what do you think about this? And if you're doing a project on the themes of love in the book, this could be a possible topic for your project, because I imagine and hope that most of you would kind of disagree with this moment, the idea that Teacake's behavior here is definitely not acceptable. And it's interesting how it's portrayed in this chapter as something that people are envious about. Curious if you think if it's because this is dated or why you think Hurston writes it this way. But it does seem to be a problematic part of the book where we see behavior that was similar to what Jody did. Jody's behavior was much more severe, but it's similar enough. And in this case, it's treated as almost like a positive thing. So I thought that was a little odd and something I disagree with. So I'm curious what you think too. But let's keep reading, and we can talk more about that in class. So Teacake, "You sure is a lucky man," Sopta Bottom told him. "A person can see every place you hit her. I bet she never raised her hand to hit you back neither. Take some of the old, dense, old rusty black women, and they would fight you all night long, and next day nobody could tell you ever hit 'em. That's the reason I done quit beating my woman. You can't make no marking 'em at all. Lord, wouldn't I love to whip a tender woman like Janie? I bet she don't even holler. She just cries. Eh, Teacake?" "That's right. See that? My woman would spread her lungs all over Palm Beach County, let alone knock out my jaw teeth. You don't know that woman of mine. She got 99 rows of jaw teeth, and get her good and mad, she'd wade through solid rock up to her hip pockets. My Janie is a high-time woman and used to things. I didn't get her out of the middle of the road. I got her out of a big, fine house. Right now she's got money enough to the bank to buy up these zigaboos and give 'em away." "Hush your mouth. And she down here in the muck like everybody else?" "Janie is wherever I want to be. That's the kind of wife she is, and I love her for it. I wouldn't be knocking her around. I didn't want to whip her last night, but old Miss Turner done sent for her brother to come and bait Janie in and take her away from me. I didn't whoop Janie because she done nothing. I beat her to show them Turners who is boss. I sat in the kitchen one day and heard that woman tell my wife that I was too black for her. She don't see how Janie can stand me." "Tell her husband on her." "Shucks, I believe he's scared of her." "Knock her teeth down her throat. That would look like she had some influence when she ain't. I just let her see that I got control." "So she live off of our money and don't like black folks, huh? Okay, well, we'll have her gone before 2 weeks is up. I'm going right up to all the men to drop rocks against her. So, what other perspective does this page show? So, remember, Teacake beats Janie and she doesn't fight back. And he does this not because he's mad at her, but to show other people that he's the boss. Now, Sop to Bottom, this is a different perspective, where Sop to Bottom can't beat his wife because she'll scream and fight back and possibly win. And then we also see Mrs. Turner's husband, who completely does not have control. Let's just say completely does not have control. Oh, wait, no, yeah. So Miss Turner is completely control of her husband, and she scares her husband. So we have three kind of levels here, where Teacake slaps Janie in the face and she lets him, where Sop to Bottom can't fight his wife because she'll win, and also Miss Turner, who completely controls her husband and scares her husband. And so we have kind of three different kinds of women here. And I'm curious why you think Hurston includes these three different perspectives. So let's think on that for a little. I ain't mad with her for what she done, 'cause she ain't done me nothing yet. I'm mad at her for thinking. Her and her gang got to go. Us is with you, Teacake. You know that already. That Turner woman is real smart, according to her notions. Reckon she done heard about that money your wife got in the bank, and she's bound to rope her into her family one way or another. So, while I continue reading, consider what is Teacake and his friends planning. Sop, I don't think it's half the money as it looks. She's color-struck. She ain't got the kind of mind you meet every day. She ain't a fact, and neither does she make good story when you tell her about her. Ah, yeah, she's too smart to stay around here. She figures we's just a bunch of dumb people, so she thinks she'll grow horns, but that's a lie. She'll die butt-headed. Saturday afternoon, when the work tickets were turned into cash, everybody began to buy Kundik and get drunk. By dusk dark, Belly Glade was full of loud talk and staggering men. Plenty of women had gotten their knots charged too. The police chief in his speedy Ford was rushing from juke to juke and eating house trying to keep order, but making few arrests. Not enough jail space for all the drunk, so why bother with a few? All he could do to keep down fights and get the white men out of the colored town by 9 o'clock. Dick Starrett and Kudime seemed to be the worst off. Their liquor told them to go from place to place, pushing and shoving and loud talking, and they were doing it. Way after a while, they arrived at Miss Turner's eating house and found the place full to the limit. Teacake, stew beef, soft to bottom, bootany, motorboat, and all the familiar crowd was there. Kudime straightened up as if in surprise and asked, "Say, what are y'all doing in here?" "Eatin'," stew beef told him. "They got beef stew, so you know I had to be here." That's funny. We all like that to take the rest from our women folks cooking. So remember, Teacake and his friends, they want to get rid of Miss Turner, and they've been planning something. So as this part kind of starts to ramp up, we can tell that something's going to happen, that they've planned something to happen, and it's about to occur. So let's see what it is. Once in a while, so us all eating away from home tonight. Anyhow, Miss Turner got the best old grub in town. Mrs. Turner, back and forth in the dining room, heard Sop when he said this, and beamed. I expect you two last night to come into this. I expect you two last ones to come in is going to have to wait for a seat. I'm all full up now. That's all right, Starrett objected. You fry me some fish. I can eat that standing up. Cup of coffee on the side. Swing me up a plate of that stew with beef, with some coffee too, please, ma'am. Starrett is just as drunk as I is, and if he can eat standing up, I can do the same. Kudime leaned drunkenly against the wall, and everybody laughed. Pretty soon, the girl that was waiting tables for Miss Turner brought in the order, and Starrett took his fish and coffee in his hands and stood there. Kudime wouldn't take his off the tray like he should have. "Now, you hold it for me, baby, and let me eat," he told the waitress. He took the fork and started eating off the tray. "Nobody ain't got no time to hold your grub in front of your face," she told Kudime. "Here, take it yourself." "You's right," Kudime told her. "Give me it here. Sop can give me his chair." "You's a lie," Sop reported. "I ain't through, and I ain't ready to get up." Kudime tried to shove Sop out of the chair, and Sop resisted. That brought in a whole lot of shoving and scrambling, and coffee got spilt on Sop. So he aimed at Kudime with a saucer and hit Bootany. Bootany threw his thick coffee cup at Kudime and just missed stew beef. So it got to be a big fight. Miss Turner came running out of the kitchen. Then Teacake caught up and caught hold of Kudime by the collar. So what is Teacake and his friends planning? So remember, they want to get rid of Miss Turner, and Teacake and his friends go to the restaurant one night after a lot of drinking. And then Kudime and Sop get into an argument. So that's where we are so far. Let's see how it continues. This is Teacake speaking. Look at here, y'all. Don't come in here and raise no disturbance in this place. Miss Turner is too nice a woman for that. In fact, she's more nicer than anybody else on the muck. Miss Turner beamed on Teacake. So now Teacake is saying that Miss Turner is the nicest person in the muck, and we know that he doesn't think about her. He hates her. So we know something is up here. They're up to something. I knows that. All of us knows it. But I don't give a damn how nice she is. I gotta have some place to sit down and eat. Sop ain't going to bluff me neither. Let him fight like a man. Take your hands off me, Teacake. Nah, I won't neither. You coming on out of the place. Who going to make me come out? Me. That's who. I'm in here, ain't I? If you don't want to respect nice people like Miss Turner, God knows you're going to respect me. Come on out of here, Kudame. Turn him loose, Teacake, Starrett shouted. That's my buddy. Us come in here together, and he ain't going nowhere until I go myself. Well, both of you is going, Teacake shouted and fastened down on Kudame. Dockery grabbed Starrett, and they wrestled all over the place. Some more joined in, and dishes and tables began to crash. Miss Turner saw with dismay that Teacake's taking them out was worse than letting them stay in. She ran out in the back somewhere and got her husband to put a stop to things. He took a look, and squinched down into a chair in an off corner and didn't open his mouth. So Miss Turner struggled into the mass and caught Teacake by the arm. That's all right, Teacake. I appreciate your help, but leave him alone. Nah, so, Miss Turner. I'm going to show 'em that they can't come running over nice people and loud-talking no place while I'm around. They gotta get out of here. By that time, everybody around the place was taken sides. Somehow or another, Miss Turner fell down, and nobody... So let's pause right there. So, as we said, they wanted to get rid of Miss Turner. Teacake and his friends went to the restaurant after drinking a lot, and Kudame and Sop get into an argument. Teacake breaks up the fight and speaks nicely about Miss Turner, and Teacake also tries to remove Kudame and Sop, but when he does that, it causes a bigger fight to break out. Now, Teacake is intentionally turning it into a bigger fight while acting as though he's trying to help. This way, he can't be accused of anything later on. So he's saying these nice things about Miss Turner to fool her into thinking he's on her side, but in actuality, he's purposefully making it a bigger fight. And the restaurant ends up completely destroyed. So let's see how this ends up. Somehow or another, Miss Turner fell down, and nobody knew she was down there until all the fighting and broken dishes and crippled up tables and broken off chair legs and window panes and such things. It got so that the floor was knee-deep with something no matter where you put your foot down. But Teacake kept right on until Kudame told him, I'm wrong. Y'all try to tell me right, and I wouldn't listen. I ain't mad with nobody. Just to show y'all I ain't mad, me and Starrett going to buy everybody something to drink. Old Man Vickers got some coon dick around the Pahokee. Come on, everybody. Let's get our knots charged. Everybody got in a good humor and left. Mrs. Turner got off the floor hollering for the police. Look at her place. How come nobody didn't call the police? Then she found out that one of her hands was all stepped on and her fingers were bleeding pretty pert. 2 or 3 people who were not there during the fracas poked their heads in at the door to sympathize, but that made Miss Turner madder. She told them where to go in a hurry. Then she saw her husband sitting over there in the corner with his long bony legs all crossed up, smoking his pipe. What kind of man is you, Turner? You see those no-count men come in here and break up my place? How can you sit and see your wife trampled on? You ain't no kind of man at all. You seen that Teacake shove me down? Yes, you did. You ain't raised your hand to do nothing about it. Turner removed his pipe and answered, Yeah, and you see how I did swell up too, didn't you? You tell Teacake he better be careful I don't swell up again. At that, Turner crossed his legs the other way and kept right on smoking his pipe. Miss Turner hit him the best she could with her hurt hand and then spoke her mind for half an hour. So how does Mr. Turner react to all of this? So Miss Turner's hands are hurt and her restaurant is destroyed, and she's really upset. She's yelling for the police and they don't come. Nobody's helping her. And when she yells at her husband for not helping and stopping the fight, he pretends that he did help, but clearly he hasn't, and so he's kind of mocking her. And so here we see her saying, it's a good thing my brother wasn't around here when it happened. He done killed somebody. My son, too. They got... So hold on one second, because on the next page we're going to find out that she's saying that her brother would help, but her brother and sons run off, and she ends up looking like a fool. So let's read it here. Some manhood about him. We's going back to Miami where folks is civilized. Nobody told her right away that her son and brother were already on their way after pointing warnings outside the cafe. No time for fooling around. They were hurrying up into Palm Beach. She found out about it later on. Monday morning, Kudame and Starrett stopped by and begged her pardon profusely and gave her $5 apiece. Then Kudame say, They tell me I was drunk Saturday night and clowning down. I don't remember a thing about it, but when I got to peeping through my liquor, they tell me I was a mess. All right, Perfect. End of the video. I'll see you next time for Chapter 18. Bye.